So this week we talked about island number 4. Island number 4 is about getting real with ourselves and with God and with others, surrendering our secrets and taking off our masks. And we talked about the fact that this is probably the island that we will spend the longest time on. That is, if we get off island number 1. Island number 1 is the island where we say, I believe there's something more. I believe I have a need. I have a hole in my life that I can't fill on my own. It's this notion of saying that I know there's something more to life, but I don't know what that something more is. And so many people spend their entire lives on island number 1. But some people, they will take a positive step and they'll move from island number 1 to island number 2, which is I believe there's a God and I matter to him. Then they'll move to island number 3 eventually, and that is that I commit my life to the care and control of Jesus. They take that step to be saved. And the immediate step after that is island number 4, and that step is the step of saying I surrender. I will take off my mask. I will surrender my secrets. I will get real. And that's probably one of the hardest decisions that we can make. It's probably one of the hardest islands to live on because for many of us, we have been fake for so long. We have been wearing masks for so long. We have been living within our secrets for so long that they've become our being. They've become who we are. In fact, for some of us, we don't even know who we are without our secrets. We don't know who we are without our masks. And so we spend a lot of time on island number 4 getting real with ourselves and with God and with others and surrendering our secrets and taking off our masks. And one of the things that we talked about when we thought about this notion of getting real, we talked about Moses and how Moses went up on the mountain after he led the Hebrews out of slavery in Egypt. And he went up on the mountain to spend time with God. And he came down from the mountain and his face was shining because he had been with God. And the people were scared. And so he got in the habit of wearing a veil over his face when he came down off of the mountain so that the glow from his face, from being in the presence of God, wouldn't scare people. And we talked about the fact that, we so many times will wear a veil, but we're not wearing a veil because of the fact that we have been in the presence of God and our glow will scare people. But we wear a veil because our veil is a sign of mourning, that we have lost ourselves, that there has been something in us that has died. The secrets that we keep represent the shame that we bear, represents the sin that we bear, represents the guilt that we bear. The mask that we wear represents the fact that we feel that we can't be ourselves in the presence of other people. And so there's a lot of things that we go through that happen to us in life, and we end up living our lives in mourning, in essence. And so we wear a veil over our faces. And that very veil that we wear over our face is the thing that prevents us from having a real relationship with God. And in talking about this notion of taking off the veil, it's scary because we've been living with that veil on for a very long time, and many of us don't know how to take the veil off. And if we do take the veil off, we're afraid of just what might happen. Like God would not accept us, or something bad would happen. Other people wouldn't accept us because of our secrets or our masks. And we then likened it to a silversmith, and we said that the process of what God is doing through the first 3 islands on island number 4 is a process of melting us and molding us. He's getting rid of our impurities, and that's really what island number 4 is about. Is the secrets and the masks that we wear represent the impurities that prevent us from being pure. And God wants to get rid of those. And the example that we use is the silversmith. And the silversmith will put the silver in under the fire, and will melt the silver and get rid of the impurities. It's very hot, and it's painful to go through that process of refining. But the silversmith knows when the silver is ready, and that is when the silversmith can look into the silver and see his reflection. And that's exactly what God wants to do for me and for you, is that God wants to see his reflection in us. And so that is why we're having this Hot Fudge Sunday be my reflection in the cross on the communion table. as a representation of what God wants to do in our lives, that God wants to work in us and wants to refine us so much, wants to get rid of our secrets and our masks so that when he looks at us, he doesn't see us, he sees himself. And that's really our goal in life, is to live in such a way that we reflect God's face, we reflect God's presence, we reflect God's being in who we are. And that's really the goal of island number 4, and that takes a long time. The passage from Paul that we were reading was from Corinthians. It was 2 Corinthians 3:16 through 18. And at the very end of that passage, he said that it will be working gradually in your life. And we talked about that. We acknowledged that this is going to be a process where for many of us, it's going to be 1 step up, 2 steps back, 2 steps up, 1 step back, 3 steps up, 1 step back. We're going to have success, and we're also going to have failure. We're going to fall off the wagon, but then we're going to get up and we're going to dust ourselves off, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue on the journey. And that's something that we have to acknowledge and we have to get a hold of. I mean, if it takes 30 years to walk into a forest, in order to get out, you've got to turn around and walk 30 years back. So it's not going to be overnight. But we don't like that fact because we live in a microwave culture. We want everything done now. We live in a credit card culture. We want to pay for everything now. We want to get everything now, pay for it later, I should say. So this is hard for us because God works gradually over time. It's not a microwave ministry. It is a crock pot ministry. Or slow cooking. And island number 4 is a place where we cook for a while. And so that was our talk this week about island number 4. So join us next week for island number 5 as we continue on our journey to be. Until then, may this week have a great you. I'll see you later.